Alex.
Happy nobody was surprised.
Otro Alex.
If it's easier, you guys can actually refer to me as Scotty.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. My name is Adrian,
And I'm Alex.
and today we have a special guest. Special guest, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Alex Scott, so I guess Alex squared at this point, and I'm a fledgling DM and very hopeful creative, and I like to paint a ton of miniatures.
Awesome.
They're so good.
Yeah, I've seen some of the work, and I just one, I'm not a painter, and two, I just haven't ever bought like models or like minis for myself at all. So like just seeing that, just like I need to keep my credit card away, kind of thing. Every time I see something cool.
Yeah, no, it can definitely add up over time. It's one of those things where you start small and it's like, oh yeah, this is great. I've got exactly what I need, and then you pass by something else that you also need, and something else you also need, and it starts stacking up over time.
Yes, I feel that unbelievably. My Amazon cart is just full of D&D books that like I haven't even cracked open like half of them because I'm busy on one or three of them, and it's just like I'll get to them eventually. Don't worry about it.
It's forever in the backlog.
Pretty much.
I mean, isn't that books in general, though? That's not like specific to D&D books. It's like books, right?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been a real big reader, so like I have a selection of books, and I've just haven't bought anything else. So I just think it's just whatever you're very interested in, that type of deal.
Adrian, you just bought 2 new books.
Yeah, and I've read one of them.
Right. But then you have those books, and then you have the D&D books, and then whatever other books. Do you not have any other books? You just have the 2?
Like no, I have the ones that I had for like college level classes and high school, just sitting there for decoration. Look, I'm a smart boy. That's it.
I remember the purge of all my textbooks from college.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. It was just such a fantastic day to go down to the store and get the 3 cents returned back for giving them back. It's like GameStop, but for just used college books.
Ugh. I feel it's either like worse or equivalent to GameStop for real.
I don't think the best book I never returned because it was not worth it was my History of Rock and Roll book, which was, I shit you not, like $126 because it has all the licenses like attached to it, right? And I brought it to the store and they were like, we can give you $3 for it. Excuse me?
I mean, at that point, it's just a very nice paperweight or a
Yeah.
doorstop, and you may as well
Yeah.
just keep it.
I have it, I think. I think it still is in my closet.
I wonder if I could just go through the books I don't need and just like use the warmth I can and burn it. I mean, I know it's bad sounding, but like it would be more beneficial, especially if it's like a textbook I don't need anymore that I was just like obligated to use. Because by now it's like that edition isn't like what we use anymore, and it keeps changing editions. You can't sell it
I mean,
back.
as long as it's like a STEM book, right? You know, some sort of math or science book that has to keep getting updated. That'd be perfect for that.
It needs to
That
go.
would have been really good for the snowpocalypse.
That sucked for
That
you.
you didn't have to deal with.
I didn't have to deal with it.
No.
All right, let's get into it, folks. Let's talk about sets and minis, and then we'll go into your project, which we talked before we started recording, and it sounds so cool. So yeah, let's talk about some minis. What is your favorite mini?
Okay, that's a bit of a first, like a really loaded first question. Like, hey, what's your favorite kid out of your many? Oh,
Are they all listening right now? They're just like over your shoulder.
I have the door closed. They're in the other room, but I feel like a few of them have kind of crept up to the door and they've just like peered through. They're just like, who's it gonna be? I would say overall, just because of the experience that I had when I got it and the first time I got to use it and the reaction I got from the players that I was, I guess, using it on or threatening them with, I got a Elder Brain miniature that is like kind of coming up out of its pool. It has this nice little translucent layer, this massive kind of like brain creature with this super thick, like inky black like tentacles that are like oozing or coming off of it. It's just this absolutely grotesque, like huge miniature, but it's really intimidating when you just can like plop that down in the middle of the area and they're like, what is that? Yeah, no, I probably would just say, because that was my gut reaction right when you said that. So I'm gonna go with that. My older brain mini.
That sounds absolutely terrifying. See, I've never actually used like big minis or any like how big is this compared to like a quote unquote like 5x5 squared like player mini?
Yeah, so the base pool is, let's see here. So it's got a circular pedestal. So the diameter
Okay.
for this is, I think, 4 squares in total. So you've got about a 20-foot diameter well that this creature is based in. The brain itself is the same diameter and size. So this thing is just this massive, just brain lurching out of this pool with these huge tentacles and everything. The tentacles, I think, have a 15 or 20-foot reach as well. So they
Oh,
reach pretty far.
heck yeah.
That's like some low level, right? Level 2 shit.
No,
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's just like the adventurers are just going through the woods one day and it plops out of a tree.
just
Yeah, why not?
that thing's
I mean,
looks.
did you lead them up? Did they know? Was it like expectation when you like
Yeah,
basically just dropped this down?
they kind of knew what they were getting into. They were in a massive cavern system, and they got to the point where the cavern didn't quite make sense because there was these massive vertical shafts and, like, I guess diagonal and horizontal shafts that didn't really look like they were dug out by anything. They were just these massive kind of like burnt out areas. They get down to the bottom area and they figure out it's a mind flayer hive that's down there. They fight through a few mind flayers and other things into a large empty room filled with random like small cover and stuff, and they're like, I wonder what boss is in here. They went up to the well and they figured they were just going to fight like a powerful mind flayer or something, because I'd been throwing that at them the entire time, but instead I plopped this giant miniature in the center of the room once they got within vision distance. So at first they just saw like an empty well, and once they got to the edge of it, one of them looked over and this thing just kind of comes lurching out of the goo, more or less, and then combat starts, and one person gets flung into the air very quickly as combat starts.
Oh my gosh. It's so cool. I mean, I mean, I'm getting there with my own games where like, oh, they're expecting one thing and they get the other. I'm super excited for
Yeah.
you for everything. Okay, let's see. What is your current games you're currently running?
So I am actually only running one, I guess, campaign right now, because like I was talking to you before, I do a lot of one shots. But in terms of campaigns, I'm doing one with some friends in Houston, doing an online campaign. There are currently 4 individuals. We had 5. One of them is currently on hiatus and will be back with us shortly. But yeah, we're actually starting, I guess, the second chapter-ish of their campaign after a few horrific and traumatic events befell the party, and 2 character deaths ended up happening. So
Oh.
I am doing session zeros for some folks and getting everyone else ready for the second chapter that's kind of starting after that. I am also a player now, I guess technically, and one of the other people in that party, they have a campaign. I'm a player in that as well.
So okay, so you this like these two player deaths. It was like at the end of it, like this big arc, and
Yes.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was I guess just to surmise as best I can, they were in a elven embassy after getting out of a cult-ridden town, kind of going there as a safe haven where they could kind of heal up and not be, immediately dismembered by ravenous townsfolk. While they were healing there was like these little points where they started seeing cult kind of activity around this area and started getting the idea of like, okay, something's going on and we need to like figure out what's going on here before something bad happens to the tower. Turns out something bad was already planted before they got there. Things escalated a little bit out of control for them, and towers started to explode and collapse, and all sorts of horrific events started to befall the party. But as they were escaping the towers collapse, one person died during the towers collapse due to massive rocks and being the size of a halfling, unfortunately for them. And then another player chose to stay, just I guess because of dedication to their RP. They're very much a monster slayer for the people, by the people, for the people kind of guy. So they stayed to help civilians try to escape during a event where they were basically getting overrun by what is the word that I'm looking for here? Aberration type creatures.
damn, that sounds epic.
It
And
was definitely a time.
how many sessions did like all this was happening in one session? Like all this like collapsing, like the pace must have been really like your players must have been on top of it and everything.
Yes, they're so a lot of them. One of them has been playing since he was 13, but most of us were, I guess, battle hardened during college together, and have been playing since, on and off. But yeah, the build up for this was over the course of, I would say, about 8 or 9 sessions in this little enclave they've been in, and then the 10th session, which is just kind of the lighting of the fireworks that nobody knew were immediately under their feet, and then they're like, "Uh-oh, things are bad. Things are much worse than we expected." But everyone took it in stride, and they were actually really happy to have a kind of like a sudden shift like that, just because there's been a lot of political intrigue and snooping around that they were doing. So they were happy to have a very tumultuous change in their scenery.
Awesome. That's great. And I mean, player death is something that I've been personally just kind of very hard for me to do. I finally ended up like killing the character only after like almost a year of playing. Because like these characters, I wanted them to be challenged, but part of me is like, but don't kill them. They're so cool. Like this ending where things are just coming to a head, and then being true to RP, like those are just like very strong moments, and it's really awesome.
It's absolutely fantastic to be able to, and I guess my favorite part is being able to collaborate with the player, because we're all playing on Discord, so they'll be like pinging me, independently about like, hey, can I do this? Just to make sure they're not just like, asking and kind of blowing, a surprise they may want to do or something like that. So the session is going the way it's going, and I kind of know generally what I was going to do, and I did not plan to kill anyone at the start of it. One person died just due to it was unfortunately their time. They were incredibly low health session, or the session beforehand, and they just could not take the falling damage and the rocks that ended up happening, but ended up, saving individuals and citizens dying. So it was something they were fine doing, and that is probably the first character death I've ever actually done due to just damage and failing death saves over and over with a nat 1, where it's just like, hey, the dice are kind of against you here, like you're really low. We can save you, and he's typing to me independently like, no, I think it's his time. So when I finally kind of get the confirmation from my player that they're like, yeah, I think this is right, like everything's going on, maybe not the way they want it exactly, but they will roll with the punches, and if they feel like it's time, and the dice are telling them it's time, they'll just go with it. The second person though was messaging me throughout the session, just kind of going, "Hey, I'm interested in starting a new character. Is this session a good session to maybe have my character leave in?" And I was like, "Well, leave maybe no, but there will be some fighting." And I didn't even get halfway through my explanation before he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm done. Cool, heroic sacrifice time." I was like, "Okay, I guess that's what's happening." So he didn't really know the hows or the whys, but he was just kind of rolling with it and improvising all of his stuff. He very much played to his character and did a amazing job at that, and everyone was kind of like, at least one person in the group is like a little teary-eyed. They're like, "Oh no, I'm gonna miss that character."
I mean, that means you've played a good session if people are trying to get teary-eyed and stuff. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think even one thing that I found interesting playing this weekend, because I was playing with my new podcast.
Nice.
Well, I didn't even think about messaging until it came up, and I was like, oh shit, I don't want to say this out loud. I don't want to say this to my party, but this is kind of pertinent information. So I think with the use of Discord and technology in general, it's made it a lot easier to like have those side conversations without being like, come into the other room, or I don't know. I feel kind of sneaky with my other player characters. Like, I know we're supposed to be all in this together, but I can be sneaky with the DM on the background.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
it's
know.
very much like, I mean, it's improvised storytelling, but it's also cooperative storytelling between every character and then the DM and all the individual folks. So I mean, sometimes the DM's not even the recipient of the message. It's two player characters trying to be little turds and devise something that might be a little, not necessarily meta at all because they're talking in character, but I would say maybe mischievous is probably the end goal. But I've definitely run into that a few times where people decided to say, "Hey, why don't we try to build this thing and just not tell Alex until later and just ask for forgiveness, not for permission?" It's just like, okay.
That is beautiful. I think, okay, I've had an instance like that. Involved a ring of spell storing, and they're like kind of running me down the instructions, like how it works, and like, would you allow this? I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, that sounds fine. I wouldn't, I think it sounds cool. Okay, and then they're like, we grab this ring of spell storing, we add find familiar into it, we give it to our rogue, and I'm like, "Ah, I already said yes to the reaction to this, and all in all, it was like, I mean, they had to have like X amount of components, so I was fine with it. They did the labor in the world, and I just said yes out of God mode, and they're doing this. I'm like, let's see what I can make up, and they really enjoyed it because they didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to appear. I could have done some weird little rat thing and nothing, but I decided to like add some more flavor to it, and I gave the rogue a niffler, and I had to figure out the stats for a niffler, which is gosh, Alex, it's Harry Potter.
From Harry Potter. Yeah. And then Fantastic Beasts and Where to
Thank you.
Find Them.
There we go. That's the one. So I gave my rogue something that could steal with him. So I thought it was. They were just like, I love it. I love it. And they're like, oh, who's next? I'm like, well, you gotta do the incantation and everything and all that stuff before you can figure that out. No, they haven't done it yet because they've been such under high stress situations. So it's been fun.
No downtime to try to find more friends.
More incense and myrrh and whatever else they need for that ritual. But yeah, that's amazing. The open communication is something like I mean, I have people always like pinging me in the background every now and then for like a small question, but like to actually like discuss like, hey, I want to do this is quite interesting. Like for like large player moments. I've had people try to be nefarious about stuff, but nothing that to that extent that you've had during your last session.
Yeah, I think honestly the jobs I've had where I've just had to be basically communicating over Slack and email with like 3 or 4 people at one time and try to hold those conversations helps with not losing my mind mid-session when I've got like 2 or 3 folks like, "Hey buddy, how's it going? I just wanted to ask you about this one thing I could do," and then I've got like the barbarian over here and the wizard over here, so I'm like trying to figure out spells and also do rage turns, and I'm just like, math.
Yep, that's D&D. Math.
How do
But yeah,
y'all
so
feel about people doing that? Like messaging you while you're in the middle of a session?
Who first?
I mean, I mean, I know it's going to help them be able to tell the story that they want to tell, because at the end of the day, my job is just to put up scaffolding that looks really interesting and pretty and cool enough to keep their attention for 5 seconds and allowing them to begin to tell their own stories. So, I mean, if there's things that I need to clarify, it really depends, I guess, what they're messaging me about. If they're messaging me about something I clarified earlier that they didn't take notes on, I might just be like, nope, sorry, refer to your friends, depending on, what it is and what I told them about. If it was something that's like an actual, like an important, like, question about abilities or like a clarifying question that I haven't already done for the group in terms of like exposition or something like that that they would have needed to take notes on, then normally I'm just going to be like, yeah, here, let me help you out. Make sure that you know what you're doing, and I'm not going to try to screw them over with the rules or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the people I'm playing with some of them might be very experienced, but just as many of them are very inexperienced. So I don't want them to feel like the rules are an encumberment to them.
I just usually if it's pertinent to the actual play, I'll respond, and usually I don't even respond back in what's called in Discord and like typing it back out to them. I just say it like, this person, yes, and then that's it. And all the other players are just like, what just happened? Gives them this sense of like, there's something going on and I don't know what's going on at the same time. And usually it's like nothing like against their own players or anything, but they're just like asking questions about material components or something like that. But I still like to like blurt it out so that people just have this slight sense of like, things are the gears are turning, but where? I always like that feeling for them, or just giving them that feeling. unless it's super important and wordy, I'm like, I'll clarify it later this session and all that stuff. What about
So
yourself?
basically, it depends. I mean, I don't have much preference. For me, I guess I'm still a new DM. Please don't bother me with your questions beyond the table because I'm already trying to get everything else perfect and not cry. But I could see where eventually it would make more sense to like have those other conversations, but for right now, please leave me alone. If
Yeah.
I DM anything, just don't talk to me yet.
It's tough. I mean, I luckily have a good rules lawyer who isn't like, this is the way. It's like, this is the way if you want it to, DM. Because I don't know everything, and he's read like all the books. So like, if I don't have anything off the top of my head, I defer to him. And he's like the guy who opens the page. Here's the supplemental material, like an excerpt from the text, and here's this one of the lead creators or something, a tweet from this guy. So it's like he has like the things to back up everything he says. So it's
he's
pretty.
like a super helpful D&D based Clippy where you actually can get useful information from him.
Yes, he's so much more than a Clippy. He casts Eldritch Blasts, and I hate it. No way to take away his spells.
No way yet.
That is true. That is 100% true. Oh gosh, I've been planning some stuff, and for all my players that are listening, be aware. Okay, things are happening. Good luck. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that.
See, that's where I get to get away with stuff because I'm pretty sure that my players don't know what my name is on here because this is a different username. So I can just say whatever and they'll just be like, I mean, they may never know, so it's perfect.
Nice.
Anonymity.
You gotta love it.
Except I said my name at the beginning, so there's that part. So shh, just.
Yeah,
I
don't.
mean, we just won't post on your social media, right?
Yeah.
Just never talk about it.
I just won't
Always.
tag him on anything. I gotta delete all the tags.
Who are you?
Yeah. Who? What? Nobody. My name is Frankenstein.
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 Is it Frank and then a letter N and then Steen? Just very inconspicuous.
Frank Norman Steen.
But yeah, I think communication's a very hard part for beginners because I've had to deal with to kind of shape expectations for new people. And I've seen that happen. Like when I got these random individuals from Roll20, some of them would stay. Some of them like, oh, this is video chat, and then would leave. And like it just depends on what they expect from the game. And like after session 1 with them, like 2 or 3 would leave, and then I'm like, okay, that's fine. They just didn't like this style. But I'm lucky enough to have these people who did stick around for almost a year and a half to just like say, hey, I think this DM is doing great. So I think having that open communication to say yes, I want to play in this game, or no, to like I don't want to play in the games, shouldn't make anybody else like feel bad when it happens, because just people have different expectations of what the game is, how it's played, and that's something have to learn together, and what you want the game to be.
If I can ask, are you getting random players over Roll20, or are they folks that you know, or how are you actually going through, I guess, the player finding process?
Oh, I went because it was the pandemic, so I wanted to test my mettle with some randoms. I used to just do it like with people when I used to live in Lubbock. I got all my coworkers into it, and then we'd play whenever they were available, and so we did that. But then when the pandemic happened, and I wasn't sure if I could do things on Roll20 like I did when I DM'd in person. So I tried it out for some randoms. Like they're the test subjects, and I ended up with some of them playing for a year and a half now. So yeah, just a bunch of randoms. Luckily.
That is brave. That is braver than I.
Oh, I ran them through the gauntlet beforehand. I had like a questionnaire to begin with, and then a second questionnaire, and just to kind of like weed things out, because the people who responded fast were the ones I wanted. The people who kind of like delayed and were the ones that like, oh, maybe they're not so, into it, or maybe like, oh, this is too much work. I'm like, I'm putting work in. I need you to put work in too. So I got lucky with my player characters. I mean, I had
That's
like
awesome.
4 or 5 leave after like one session, after like two with after one the original startup and then a reboot near the middle, because some people like, I don't think this is my game, so and they left, so it was fine. But yeah, I got lucky.
That's awesome though. That is yeah. I mean, like you said, that's incredibly lucky. That's super cool. I mean, especially being able to get folks that you've just met, like you're talking about, to communicate is pretty crazy, because normally I'm used to just like, oh, I kind of know you. You have an established ish, level of trust between people, so it's just easier to bridge that communication gap initially. But that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever do it again though. uh because like even now as we get near the end of this campaign, they're like, because I told them like I'm gonna do a new campaign starting from level 1 because I started wanting to stream it, and some of the people when I first asked about streaming, they said no. So I'm like, okay, this game's not gonna be streamed then. So this new one, I want it to be streamed, and so we'll see who sticks around and who doesn't. And I thought I was gonna get a whole new batch of people, but I might only be able to get like one or two now, because a lot of them are just like, I want to still play with, me as the DM. I'm like, okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have to. Well, we're almost there. We'll discuss it that we have to cross the roads.
Well, best of luck on your new adventure.
I appreciate it. I'm trying out what's it called? Another module. Rhyme with Frostmaiden. There we go. And I usually yes.
I have heard good things about Rhyme, and then I've heard interesting things about Rhyme.
Heard. Interesting. Oh, that's fun. Hopefully I can make it my own like I did for this campaign, which I haven't been saying because I think we can get throughout the episode without saying it.
We can't.
Yes, we can. We can try.
No. Because now you're going to be rude to our guests.
You say it then.
Curse of Strahd.
There you go.
Oh yeah, no, Strahd is a fantastic time.
It is. But yeah. How about you? Do you pull from modules, or do you like to make your own campaigns?
So, used to, actually what I would do is like things like Mines of Phandelver. I would use something like a smaller or shorter module to kickstart it, and then I would, oh, okay, once you guys are done and you're back in this world, the world is more of like an open world, homebrew world or something like that, and then I do a original homebrew campaign off of that. Granted, not many homebrew items at first when I did this. It was basically just like I wanted to make my own towns and names and things like that, but very much all of the astrology and how everything worked, the gods, the pantheons, was all pretty much the same.
Gotcha.
And that is more or less where I started, and then now I love making my own worlds and maps and theologies and getting so very deep into creating a world that sometimes it's unnecessary the amount of detail I put into it.
Is there like a nugget of information that you like wanted to tell your players but couldn't because they didn't like succeed a roll, or like a history check or anything like that?
I would think, yeah, recently, it was like, I guess a good example of not really having a chance to investigate their environment because, ooh, shiny objects. They were just very much in a shopping session in a town to the south of them where they were, falling out of towers and having the apocalypse coming on them. So quite a few sessions ago, buying supplies, just, getting ready to go on their adventure, or I guess leave from that town, continuing on their adventure. And one of the players was basically looking for a way to try and get them upriver to where they were trying to go faster. And they were looking at these boats and trying to figure out what to do. And there was this dwarf that was kind of like a smuggler on the docks, like messing with these barrels, just a bit away from them. And he tripped and fell and like dropped a barrel of fish that he was like messing with. And it was kind of like a hook to get someone to, maybe help him or talk to him or something. And literally everyone in the group was, for some reason, just feeling snooty that day. And they're like, we don't want to talk to him. He's covered in fish, whatever. And they literally just walked on by. And I was like, but guys, no, all right.
Guys, bait. Juicy bait. No? Okay, not juicy enough.
Yeah, no, the best part was like I would be like, oh, you see like this lady, this man, or some very 2-bit description, and then I like gave them a full description of his character and everything like that. So it's like, oh, okay, we got some extra juice on this. Immediately just walked by him. I'm just like, guys, come on now. But he was basically going to be able to smuggle them upriver. Instead, they had to go overland, went through a cultist town, had that entire ordeal befall them, and then got up there, and then they see him on the riverside unloading himself and a few other dwarves from these barrels and like a bunch of stuff they smuggled. They're like, wait a minute. Oh.
It comes full circle.
Wait a minute, I know that story.
Yes, I do definitely take things from other mythoses and kind of like pepper them here and there, especially when I'm just having a bit of a dry spell and think of anything original. It's like, you know what, dwarves and barrels does sound like a good time.
I want to kind of go back to your sets. What was the hardest one to, I guess, get together? I don't know. I don't know the process other than like, what I mean, like how about this? How from scratch do you make your sets from?
So, in terms of, I guess, two things, there's two big components to any 3D set. Like a tabletop setup. You're going to have your miniature creatures, or I guess we'll call them, NPCs or player characters, right? And then you've got the actual terrain. So, and just, I guess, before I say anything, there is absolutely nothing wrong with dry erase markers and a grid map, because that is definitely where I started, and it forces people to get into theater of the mind and kind of, imagine the space as you're describing it to them, and it's a good place to start. But I waited for a long time to kind of have like sets like this, so I have dumped a lot of time into this. But long story short, with the terrain, there is scattered terrain, and then there's actually like ground and buildings, and there's a whole gambit of different companies you can go to for things. So it really depends on what you're trying to build. So I guess as like a recent example, I made a small little basically shed that was at the edge of a road in a town I guess like square or something like that, kind of emptied out into this small area, and it was gated off from the rest of the town. It's like a little storage, I guess, alleyway or something like that, if you could call it. So there's roads and things like that that I had to incorporate into it, and thankfully, you paint it once and you get it ready once, you don't have to worry about it again. With a lot of my ground terrain, though, I have ordered that from Dwarven Forge, which is a company that will create and print most of these sets. A lot of them I will get either painted, or if I know I'm going to have the time, I'll get them unpainted, and then I'll get the recommended painting sets with them, because they'll essentially have it to where you can almost color by numbers it, and the only thing that takes time to get used to is dry brushing a lot of the paint on afterwards. So I use a lot of Warhammer paints or Citadel paints for a lot of the base painting, and we'll normally go over them with some primer that's analogous to whatever I'm going to be painting them, if it's a darker coat or a lighter coat. Obviously, all of that needs to dry if I'm going to prepare that. But outside of actually physically like painting and preparing it, because that's like just an entire process. Obviously, you normally want to like sand it beforehand so the paint kind of adheres if the model is like fresh out of the factory or something. But yeah, generally it's kind of like I would liken it almost to like building a building in Sims. You start with like the ground floor, or like the basis. So it's like if I'm building an alleyway, I'm just like, okay, what's the perimeter look like? It's like, oh, it's got trees or something, and there's a road for the base area. So I'll kind of like make a small road that kind of maybe goes in and forks out into an alleyway, or not alleyway, I'm sorry, like a cul-de-sac at the end of the alleyway, and then maybe put a building at the end of it, and then surround it with like small kind of stand-up trees. Nothing very hyper specific. It's just like a small kind of like focal point for everyone to sit at the table and look at. So there's no building surrounding it, no like full immediate town or city set up if I just want them to focus on this alleyway only. Because the more stuff I build around that, the more egregious detail I add to it that I don't really need them to focus on. So you also have to think about like how much detail you're pumping into a scene when you're making something, because if you put too many miniatures on the table, it's just like a game of I Spy sometimes to figure out where anything is between all the colors and spacing and things like that. I know that was a kind of a long-winded answer, but I guess to answer your question more thoroughly, was your question more about like the painting aspect, or how I kind of pull things together and make a actual like setting or a battlefield?
Well,
You-
go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I was gonna say it was all of it.
Yeah, pretty much. My questions are usually just like brush instead of like point. So like, when I ask a question, it's like I'm still working on how to build it. So yes, the painting aspect, I haven't personally painted any sets, but I mean, it seems like a hobby that might get me consumed, and I'm afraid of it. Um, and so I was really interested in how that type of work works, and then just like how you build things, like incorporate the scene. I guess is I'm not like how you didn't build things around it. So essentially making this the focal point and making sure your characters know what they're supposed to be at. I think it's kind of important because like I've seen people who build sets and they just put up a random like a raven, and then they're like, "What's with the raven?" And then they're all just focused on this one raven. It's like it's just a bird, Like, what about this treasure chest? No, 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 no. I've never seen a raven on your sets. What is this? You know?
Yeah. That's the fun thing with like having a consistent campaign versus a one shot too, because the one shot everything is unexpected, so everything's new and exciting
Mhm.
versus the consistent campaign where they see you whip out one new thing and they're like, "What are you about to do? What do I need to roll for? Detect magic! I detect magic!" Um, but no. So I guess to wind back to the painting question at first, and like that kind of prep. So in general, if I'm painting like a large scope of like miniatures and things like that, one thing I try to do is cheat and get a bunch of pizza and a bunch of beer or whatever beverages my friends like to drink, and inviting a bunch of my friends over who already are just interested in painting and paying them in food to just sit there and listen to music and paint with me. It multiplies the amount of hands I have working, and then most of them end up playing in my campaign anyway. So they're like, "Oh, I remember painting Steve the xenomorph. He was my favorite one. I painted like a spot on his head with this little like gray thing, and whatever." It's actually kind of a fun little thing for a lot of my players to come back and see some of the stuff they've worked on. Like, "Oh, I remember making that, a year ago or whatever." So it's cheating and fun, but I'll do that for a lot of my prep time, which cuts down on a lot of it, and it also helps me see other painting styles I just never would have thought of in terms of like, oh, dude, I never would have thought to do um, this like glitter gloss on a xenomorph. Like, I never thought of doing this like black glitter. I was like, I don't know. I mean, that kind of seems gaudy. And then they're like, no, 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 and they smoothed it out and did a bunch of essentially a kind of like dispersal magic on it with this little piece of newspaper they had, and made it kind of like blotched, and it looked really cool. It's probably one of my favorite little miniatures that a friend's painted with me. But yeah, so I learn little things all the time like that, and it also helps me speed up the process in general. Painting is it's not as daunting as you think it would be once you get a process in, because a lot of this stuff is meant to be modular and like adult Legos, so you want the pieces to look similar-ish. So if you get into like a rhythm of just painting it, it'll take you a few hours to get through it by phase, but you can knock them out quicker than you'd think, especially with terrain. Now, miniature creatures or characters are an entirely different ballgame, because there's a whole degree of detail on those that's normally not present on the terrain that you're painting. And you can get away with taking a larger swath of area up with a single color on terrain as opposed to a miniature, like a character or something. So I guess that explains a little bit of the painting bit, but setting a scene is such a hard thing to even begin to describe, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's so easy. It's like how I would build something in Legos, and I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, Alex. But it's almost like imagining looking at it like top down from your head, of kind of like, okay, how do I need them to move through this space? And it's also just a little bit of kind of knowing your party. So it gets harder to build a 3D space for people the less you know about them. So the folks that do, I would say, like maybe modular dungeons for folks they've never met, there's a lot less scatter and things on the ground to distract people. Like, oh, what's that barrel? Is that a mimic? I bet it's a mimic. So I would say it's one of two things. You either put so much that it's everything is intentional and it's just terrain, or you put very select things that are going to draw people's attention. So if you have hundreds of barrels somehow to paint your dungeon with, they're not going to think that every single barrel is a mimic. I mean, most of those barrels are probably just barrels due to the amount of them, unless of course you're an evil DM and the whole dungeon is a mimic dungeon, in which case, then I guess expectations have been subverted. But I would say most of the time, if I need them to focus on something, I try to make it incredibly, incredibly obvious. So maybe a PC is being told by an NPC, you know, deeper into the town, there's a fountain sitting in the middle of a town center, and next to that fountain, you'll find a ripped open crate, and they'll find some silver weapons in there for fighting the werewolves in the town or whatever it may be, right?
Mhm.
And then make it very obvious that there's a town center on the setup, and there's a fountain there, and there's a crate there. But then it gets into the question of, well, do you need them to be able to see where they want to go? Do you need them or want them to see where the entire town is? So a lot of your design choices are going to get informed by how you need your players to move and what objectives you need them to solve. And a lot of those design choices are going to inform how you build anything, because otherwise you're just setting them up for failure.
That's a lot of like thinking that I usually don't put into my campaign. Mine's really off the cuff. I mean, but I think for the one I'm working on now, since most of it's already like, they can't go anywhere else. They're stuck in Barovia. Like I don't have to really worry about too much. I've already given them a map of the whole place at this point, and they're just like, oh, I'm afraid to go anywhere. So I think that all this work and thought process and how you set things up, I think it just really it fuels me. Was inspiring. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Inspires me to kind of think a little bit more critical about what I'm giving, what I'm putting onto a map, what's important and what's not important. Yeah, it's super cool. Alex, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
I want to ask him about his little one shot like fillet like buffet.
No, I don't have any questions, but I think even from like the player character side, seeing my DM put in effort and like time makes me also want to put in effort and time. So, with the new one, I spent time actually building my character and like legitimately building my character, not just like, yeah, she likes to breathe fire and she's an entertainer, but sometimes she turns into a bear, and like that's cool. And I'm just gonna shoot fireball all the time. Like that's my job. Now I actually have like, oh, this is the intention behind this action. I'm not necessarily just trying to get the job done. I'm trying to build a story within a character, and it, long story short, helps when I see that somebody else cares. Not that I don't care to begin with. I just didn't think about it until I saw somebody else do it. Or, having conversations like this, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. It makes a difference. If I see something on the board as a character and I haven't seen it before, my brain's going to go crazy and be like, what the fuck is the raven for? What are we doing here? Like, why is this spot look a little funny? Maybe you were just trying a new paint technique, but maybe it's a mimic. It's a shrub. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a positive little feedback loop where just your creativity starts, going and going and going, and it suddenly explodes.
I mean, yeah, I've seen that in my game where one person started RPing and then everyone's like, wow, that was a powerful moment. And then other people wanted to start like putting, definition into their character as like a background and all that stuff. And I wanted to like know more about their character so I could potentially tie it in. So like when one person like sets off this like creative like, whoa, and everyone's like, I want that moment too. And it just kind of like feeds back on each other. It's just like a feedback loop of just positivity.
One of my favorite things I've been taught to help folks kind of figure out how they want to role play their character is and that I've like been implementing since I heard about it is basically session zeros, but very much like focusing them a lot more on RP than any sort of like combat or anything like that, but trying to get the players to be very comfortable in the skin of who they're playing, and figure out how they exactly want to play them, how they want to voice them, everything like that, and build these little kind of character moments in the areas they're in where if they ever come back there, like maybe they made a friend at a local bar and they talk about, oh, the night that they got drunk and helped the bartender fend off bandits or whatever, whatever happened in their session zero. but it gives them kind of like a sense of identity before they even meet the group, quote unquote.
That is something I have yet to do is a session 0. I think hopefully in this next one I'll try it and see how I can improve as a DM. Do you
I
go
really,
ahead? Sorry.
I've done 2 session zeros very recently, and it really does make a huge difference that, like, I don't know, that first time that you have a moment to be in your character, like, gets all the nervousness and shakes off. You don't even have to worry about it, when it really happens. Not that it's not really happening, but I don't know, it's just that, like, pregame idea of just getting rid of all those jitters. I really it made a difference in how I was thinking and how I've been approaching both of those games.
All right. I wanted to talk about your one shots and you said little project program. What word did you use? I forget.
It's definitely a project. It's it's a work in progress is what it is. But yeah, lots of one shots basically. But yeah, no, I guess to I guess expand on that a little bit. Yeah, it's a lot of one shots, and that's all you're going to get. No.
All right, that's it. Bye,
So
everybody.
yeah, and that's your explanation. No, I guess starting off, the whole purpose of what it is I've always had a problem looking and finding people for pickup games for one shots because I've got a stable of like 5 to 6 friends here where I'm like, hey guys, you want to come over and play D&D? And every once in a while we totally can make it work. The stars align, scheduling works, and we come over or they come over for a game. Everyone has a good time. We're all just like getting like basically drunk, fat, and happy playing D&D. And everyone goes their separate ways, and it's not a campaign. It's just like a quick one shot, and just to let everyone do something ridiculous and go home. And it's become increasingly harder and harder as more of us just get more involved with life and jobs and all these other horrible responsibilities that life shackles us with, so we can pay money for things.
Yep.
But in dice and other miniatures and other things I am hoarding in my house. But it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the change I want to see. So I started just nagging all these other folks that I had talked with. I was like, hey, how do you feel about Math Rocks? You want to come play some D&D sometime? And, every once in a while I'd be met with the, nah, it's not really my thing. But surprisingly, during and after the pandemic, people have started really warming up to the idea that weren't before necessarily interested, because they've been starting watching these podcasts during the pandemic that like Crit Roll or Dimension 20 and things like that, just like, oh, so this is D&D, and they get an idea of what it is. And then I am held to that very fun, high, lofty standard of Matt Mercer or something like that. But they'll come by and be like, I wanna play D&D, and I was like, well, hold your horses, let's talk about what it is, and see how you feel about it. And I started having an influx of people that would they would come and play and have a lot of fun, and then they would tell a friend, and then their friend would tell a friend, and I started like having this small tribe of people that were like, hey, when's the next game? And I was like, wait a minute, I've got a lot of people here that are interested in this. So I started running them through actual one shots with like full character sheets, and like they build their characters over here and do everything, versus me building it for them and giving it to them when they arrive out of some pre-built characters. Actually running them through the process and getting them interested. And the goal of all of this is to eventually have a workshop of not just myself, but maybe a few other creatives and other DM interested folks or DM related folks to help kind of run these one shots on a semi-rotating or reoccurring basis, to allow new players and old players to come in and like treat it like a sandbox. And then eventually, the I guess longer term goal, I want to do a Adventure League style or a West March style kind of campaign with a good degree of them or good amount of them, and be able to have a very large, like 15 to 30 person kind of cooperative campaign, because I've always wanted to do something like that, but never had the sheer number of people to actually do it with. So that is, I guess, basically what I'm doing right now.
That's amazing, and also a big feat on its own, because West March is I'm in one currently with one of our previous guests. Shout out to Skylar, and people will come, we'll like play a game, but then we'll pit her out. I think, and you have that core team right now, and I think that it's tough to grow a community, but I think it's such a cool thing to do when it, when those wheels start turning and people are like, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to DM and like try it out, and then then you got them on the DM screen behind the DM screen with you. And you're like, okay, cool. I can like take a breath and then help out these other people. And it's like it's this rolling kind of, uh, rolling amount of players and dungeons masters just trying to like have fun together.
Yeah, and my favorite thing was it started with 5, and then I was like, okay, I got 8 people. Wow, that's a good amount. And then now I'm sitting here and I'm like, what do I do with these 36 people? And I'm just like, I don't know. So I'm working on like trying to get a few of them. I was like, hey kid, you wanna come play God for a little bit? And trying to convince a few of them that are a little bit more creatively minded, but have the I guess organizational capacity and I guess the interest to want to maybe try DMing. And I really want to get more of them interested in that and kind of grow it further so that I can not necessarily take a break, but kind of focus on more logistics and like I guess more growth and getting more folks interested and just growing the beast, I guess, just seeing how far I can get with this little project and seeing what I can, what I can do with like a community of folks and go from there.
That's amazing.
Basically, just start indoctrinating all these people into playing Dungeons and Dragons.
It's really just a cult. The 90s were right, and Dungeons and Dragons is just it's a gateway to satanic panic.
Absolutely.
You heard it here first, folks. We have confirmation. We got him. Just kidding.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Yeah, no, I really honestly just the thing that I really want to go for, like the moment that's going to give me the warm fuzzy is when I have enough folks, like maybe 15 plus playing in like one of those massive campaigns, but they're talking about in-game happenings or lore between each other, and like, oh, I heard about you're the guy who jumped on the back of the ent and chopped through it with a single cleave or whatever. Like just being able to talk to each other about like stories that happened organically through being able to play together. That's the moment when I start hearing anything like that between multiple large groups of people. I'm gonna be like, okay, that's it, I'm happy. And then I'm gonna probably end up wanting a lot more after that because that's how that works.
Yeah, you're never satisfied. You need the big old creation to keep growing and keep growing.
Yep, fuel the machine.
Exactly. Oof. I feel like I want to gosh, I want to host another one shot. I need to get more practice in. I'm not the best, but I'm trying. Alex can attest.
Hey, practice makes perfect. It's a process.
I think I don't know. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, dude, that's amazing. I hope the best, and I am here for it. Hey, if you ever get it like going at a big capacity where you invite some randoms, come back on the show and we'll shout it out like, hey, first timers or whatever, old timers can go check out Scotty's big world of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know what you're gonna call it.
The big old D&D circus. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, whenever I get to the point where I've got maybe a few more hands and we can start getting people outside of just like locally in San Antonio, and I figure out how we want to do online stuff, I'm gonna be here for it. I've definitely gotten a lot of online practice during the pandemic, and it's something I want to continue getting better at because it's foreign territory to me, and there's lots of internal screaming and being scared at the start of every one of my sessions.
No, don't let that happen.
It happens, Alex.
That was the motivational speech for today. No, you as one of my other friends from college, although not old people like I usually bring in, but a younger generation because I had friends old and young. I say that with a grain of salt. I just didn't. I knew that there was this level of creativity within you, and I'm really happy to see it manifesting in this world because you are one of my favorite people, especially watching you build all these minis. If you have a chance, dear listener, go check out Alex's Instagram, Drinking and Dragons, because it's so good and all of it's so cool. And I can't imagine it coming out from human hands that are not touched by an angel.
Thank
That
you.
got away from me. You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of fantastic friends and honestly amazing players that are the only reason that I'm really been able to get this far because without a good few groups it's hard to get going, but having some amazing people to play with and be able to get through and bounce ideas off of is absolutely like the one main driving thing. And it's also amazing that like you're running the podcast and everything because like I randomly was just like working on my stuff and then out of the blue you're like, hey, what's up, wanna jump by on the podcast? I was like, a podcast? Yeah, sure, absolutely, that's cool. Because I've been noticing like here and there you've been doing like a lot more, I guess, like not necessarily social media but just like media stuff in general. It's super awesome.
Nerd shit. It's Adrian's
Yep.
fault. And I'll blame this on Adrian.
Yeah, it was just a joke, and now I don't think it's a joke anymore.
I don't think it's a joke anymore.
The joke just keeps going and going.
Exactly.
That's the joke. Oh.
I think that it's just we're slowly starting to like grow and meet all these cool people and trying to like reach out to see who we can see and who we can like. I know we're small, but like spotlight as much as we can as well to like all these other creators and like individuals who have like a hand in creating the media that we see and being a part of that kind of conversation and just talk to them and and not just about D&D but just like the stuff we have around it. Wow, that's the tagline. Anyways,
Not just D&D, but the stuff.
the the life we live around it is the actual tagline. I just tried to stop myself and I said stuff. I'm like, wow, that's not elegant at all. I just say the line. But yeah.
Well, I think just to divert from that for a second, I think that's interesting because, with quarantine bringing out all these different creative outlets for Dungeons and Dragons, and then people getting to see people and listen to Matt Mercer, or anything, that's the same thing, right? No, Critical Role is different. What's the other one? Adrian, why am I losing it?
Critical Roles, Mercer, and Dimension 20 is a
Thank
different
y'all.
one. There are so many now, and there's actually Critical Role is just a massively successful one, but there are so many amazingly talented dungeon masters out there that put some great streaming content out there.
Yeah, and that I know for me thinking about it, like that's overwhelming. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm not gonna be that good. I'm not gonna be able to build a character. I'm not gonna be able to build a setting. I'm not gonna be able to tell a story as well as these people who are doing it professionally and getting paid for it, and they're getting paid because they started where you started. That can be overwhelming, but I talking to people, not that you're little fish in a big pond, but talking to people who are regular ass people who have regular ass day jobs and do other things most of the time, just build minis all day long. That's it.
I wish.
Oh my God.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes.
Speak
yes.
it into the world.
But yeah, talking to people, you're still successful at that. Like at no moment am I like, no, he's a shitty DM. No, his buildings, his painting are, no, at no point. Even if you were starting off, I was still like, holy shit, that's great. And then still I'm like, holy shit, that's great. So, even as you get better, you're still going to get the same, like, holy shit, that's great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's and honestly, that's the same effect I go for with my players. Because honestly, I keep doing it for them. It's a nice outlet for me, and it's a nice thing to be able to come home from work and just sit down and be like, okay, I can really just go think about a fantasy realm for the next hour and a half, and nothing matters, and it's totally okay. Not at all that I hate my job at all, but everyone has long days, and it's nice to be able to have a hobby that you can dive into and know that there are other people that sincerely enjoy what you're doing. That is like the best kind of fuel for your fire.
I agree.
I concur.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. All right. Anything else before we wrap this up? Because
Well,
I know we'll have Scotty back on for sure.
Absolutely 10 out of 10. Because we need to talk about one shots. Like, how the fuck to do that?
Oh, that is my favorite thing. But if y'all are ever in around San Antonio, Austin, Houston area, anything like that, I would be more than happy to not just describe it to you, but I'd be more than happy to throw you a one shot because I've got plenty of folks here that would be happy to fill in spots, and I think you might know some of them from college.
Ah.
Sounds cool.
Now, Adrian, you're from San Antonio,
I am
right?
from San Antonio. I'll probably I'm getting a cur soon, so I'm gonna be down there eventually.
Nice. Well, I mean, in the event that you guys ever would like to stop by and participate in some math rock games, just let me know.
Hell yeah. I mean, I already like had that like, how am I gonna ask him to play math rock games with him? And he's already just offering it. It's a great time. It's a great time already.
Oh yeah, no, I live for new games because it's always fun to see how everyone plays the game differently, and just seeing how they play the game is always just a fun time.
Awesome. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll hold you to that for sure. But yeah, I think that I gotta plan a trip to San Antonio now. But other than that, I think I'm good here.
I am. Alex, anything you would like to plug?
I'm not really a plugging kind of person, but you should keep watching this podcast and all the new episodes that come out after this.
Ooh, wow.
That's assuming people have made it past
Our last episode?
Lightning McQueen.
Lightning
yeah.
McQueen?
Yeah.
Yes,
fine.
our cursed Lightning McQueen episode.
Cursed. You should definitely check out that episode if you have not. It's
yeah.
I mean, I'm down for some good curse content.
Oh god, it's so bad.
I'm about to just drop a whole bunch of placards for it. Anyways, yeah. It's got the picture that Lauren sent us. It's great. Okay. All right. Well, if that's it, Alex, take us away.
Check Alex out at Drinking and Dragon. Right? Drinking and Dragon. Dragons and Drinking. Drinking, Dungeons and Drinking. What is...
Drinking and Dragon.
Drinking and drinking. Oh, no. We forgot.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes. Drinking and Dragons on Instagram. The work is amazing. Just chef's kiss, perfect. Dear listener, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening to our little tiny podcast. We appreciate every like, comment, view, everything that you could ever put out in the universe. If you share this with one friend, you will definitely have good luck for the rest of the day. If you really want some extra good luck and like maybe get a date, you should definitely like and subscribe on wherever pods are cast, and 5 stars on Apple Podcast. This is not getting away from me. I can do it. Also, if you want to help us out monetarily, we have a Patreon. Please help us out. Spread our good DnD content across the world. Our patrons are now getting little tiny postcards that I spent too much time making. So if you want a tiny little print to put on your wall and adorn it, subscribe and patronize us. That's not right.
I mean, sort of. Yeah, please patronize us.
Yeah, patronize us.
You just have to pick the right tier for that.
Yeah, the patronize us. Oh, that's a good one. Like $20 a month. You get to yell at us for an hour a week.
An hour a week? What kind of time do you think I have?
I don't know. Maybe everybody at once. You get 1 hour for everybody who donates $20 a month to yell at us.
Just like a 40-person Discord call.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe you did this. I can't believe you did this. And just a bunch
old
of
AIM chat room.
Oh, heck yeah. We'll be waiting for you in the AIM chat room, but boys and girls.
Oh.
Get your cringe usernames ready.
Buttercup Girly 13. Yes.
Everyone knows my name, but it's very incorrectly spelled.
Adrian Padrian?
No. It's just everyone knows my name. That's what it was.
Oh no.
I told you it was cringe.
That's fair.
Thank you so much for listening. My name's Adrian.
I'm Alex.
Go have some fun.